Hello, everyone. Welcome to Boost Your Business. We will be getting started in just a few minutes as we wait for people to enter into the GoToWebinar platform. Okay, everyone. Good morning. My name is Tara Palacios, and I am the Director of Small Business for Arlington County. And it is my pleasure and honor to have you all here with us this morning to our second edition of Boost Your Business on Local Budgets. We're really excited to have you all join us today because today we are featuring the City of Alexandria. And we have the pleasure of having both Stephanie Landrum and our very dear friend Jason Hawkins, who will be talking about opportunities that you can find through local governments and on local budgets. So I wanted to go ahead and welcome you all on this rainy Friday, as I like to say. We hope that the information that you receive from today's presentation will be extremely helpful to you. Many times business owners consider, I want to do business with the federal government. I want to get on the GSA schedule. And they sometimes forget that local governments, we have needs. We have needs of products and services. And so, we really want to make sure that folks understand and also understand specifically what the local government's needs and their processes, which kind of differs from region to region. So we're really happy to have our friends from the City of Alexandria with us today. The agenda after the welcome, we're going to do a mini icebreaker, and then we're going to go into the formal presentation. And we also want to leave time for Q&A. So please, we don't want anyone to leave out with more questions than they came in with. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box that you'll see in the device in the GoToWebinar. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. We do want to make sure that you get all of your questions answered. And so you can either raise your hand in the chat box feature or ask a question in the chat box. During the icebreaker, we're going to ask people to raise their hand and then put their question in the chat box, and we'll try to get as many people through that means as possible. Presentation materials will be posted. If you have any questions, also feel free, myself and my colleague Jen and our team from Arlington are going to be behind the scenes answering as many questions as we possibly can. And even if you think of something later on in the presentation, we'll make sure during the Q&A session with Jason to ask at the end. And so it's my pleasure to introduce you to my friend, partner, and collaborator, Chris Lay, who's going to say some words on behalf of Virginia's Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. I hope you all are aware of this amazing program that's available through the state. Chris?
Thank you, Tara. Good morning, everyone. And I love that word Friday. So happy Friday to everybody.
Friday.
It's raining, but we'll take it. It's still Friday, right? For those who don't know me, I'm Chris Lay. I am with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. And I want you to think of us as your first step for business resources. When you need help getting your business started or the next steps for your business, please come to us. We are here for you. We are your small business agency in Virginia. I'm with the Business Development and Outreach team. We are the ones who do the workshops, the training. We teach you how to do the SWAM certification, how to do Virginia's procurement process, which is EVA, and we do a lot of counseling. So you can get counseling sessions with us for free. We also do certifications. So most people who have heard of SBSD know us for the SWAM certification, which is the small business certification process in Virginia. And then we have a financing authority. This is the financing arm of our agency. Right now, we have the Rebuild Virginia grant. Please check out our webpage for that. The eligibility has changed. So if you thought that you were not eligible before, you may be eligible now. So please check it out. There's money to help your business through this whole COVID and pandemic. I mean, life is so weird. So if there's help for you, get it. And I think you may be more eligible now than you were before. So have a great session with the City of Alexandria. They are relatively new to the EVIS system, and I'm excited to hear how they do procurement just like you guys. You probably see the SWAMI Honors logo on this slide, and that's because we just had the SWAMI Honors yesterday. So we partnered with AED, and we had a wonderful event. It was a time for us to celebrate small businesses and hear your story, hear how you pivoted and persevered, and the passion that you do your business, because you are the backbone of our economy. And we will probably have it again next year, so look out for this information. I want all small businesses to be a part of it next year. Thank you again for this opportunity. I'm turning it back to you, Tara.
Thank you so much, Chris. What I'm going to do for everybody too, in the chat box, I'm going to put a link to the SWAMI honors. We were able to honor 20 SWAM businesses yesterday, and I think it was our goal with the SBSD was just to have a very inspiring session where you could hear from what other businesses have done to pivoted and to persevere during this really tough time, this tough 2020 year. So I'll be
It's
sure to share
crazy.
with everybody. And thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Have a great session, everyone.
Thank you. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our two presenters today from the City of Alexandria. First, an amazing and great friend of ours, Stephanie Landrum, who is the president and CEO of the Alexandria Economic Development Partnership. You'll be hearing from Stephanie, and then Stephanie's going to turn over the presentation to Jason Hawkins, who is the SWAM lead for the City of Alexandria's procurement division. So have an amazing session, and it's so good to see you, Stephanie.
Nice to see you, Tara. Thanks so much for inviting us to participate today. I think one of the things that I thought about when Tara reached out to me is we have a really long history, the City of Alexandria and Arlington County, of finding ways to work together. And what a great way for us to think about supporting each other, looking at the city's needs for procurement and services and goods, and thinking about the small business community in Arlington County. So in the City of Alexandria, we feel a lot of importance, or we give a lot of importance to small businesses. We are a city made up of small businesses, and again, this is one of the areas where Arlington and Alexandria are very similar. We also have tried to find ways to make sure that we support businesses throughout the DC region because many of our residents are employed by businesses in jurisdictions that surround us. It's very rare these days to find somebody who lives and works, honestly, in the same jurisdiction. And so this idea that we all need to be supportive of each other is one that serves each of us well. So I hope that you all do have a great session today. I appreciate being asked to be here and for Arlington's inclusion of Alexandria. And I will hand it over to the most prepared colleague I can think of to talk to you all on this topic, Jason Hawkins with the city's procurement office.
Okay, well, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much, and thank you again for the invite. Again, it's great to be here and to be presenting, and just, I guess, to be presenting on behalf of the City of Alexandria. Again, my name is Jason Hawkins. I am a contract specialist with the City of Alexandria, and I also serve as the SWAM lead for the city. So think of me as the gatekeeper of all things as it relates to procurement information, and as well as SWAM. So again, as I meet new potential service providers, I always like to encourage them to reach out to me directly if they have questions or concerns about the procurement process, because as I know, again, I've worked in procurement for well over 10 years, both in the public and private sector, and I know that sometimes the process can be a little bit complex. And so I encourage vendors, no matter how, no question is obscure at all. So again, I encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions. In this presentation, I'll try to be as direct and as very straightforward as possible, because I know I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. But again, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and I'll try to address it sometime towards the end of the presentation. So what I will do now, I guess I will go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if I could navigate that. Okay. And let's see. Let's see if I can begin the presentation from the beginning. So hopefully can everyone see my my presentation or the
Yep.
Okay,
We're
great.
good to go, Jason. Looking great.
Okay, good stuff. All right, so without further ado, I mean, this presentation is very simple. Working with the City of Alexandria, there are many opportunities for you and your business to engage the city. And I have to say, but before I begin, even though this health pandemic that we're all engaged in has really slowed things down in terms of how we conduct our normal day-to-day activities, I have to admit that one of the great things about our industry and our sector is that the procurement process has still remained constant. I know this to be true with our cousins in Arlington, and it's also true with us. Despite the fact that my department's efforts has shifted, or our focus has shifted to procuring now PPE items on behalf of the city. The solicitations and the RFP process has remained constant. There is a vast amount of opportunities that are available within Alexandria for businesses to consider, and there are opportunities within every category, as I like to call them, whether you are in professional services or non-professional services. So if you are an IT service provider, or if you are a business that caters. I know that I've interacted with businesses who even provides consulting services for employees to improve themselves or to find further enrichment. There are opportunities out there for you within Alexandria. So again, I'll share some information on how you can get connected and move the process forward, or move the ball forward. So with that, let me move on to the next slide. Okay, so here is a brief agenda. Again, that has my contact information. Again, I'll provide that to anyone. If you're unable to write it down quickly, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. But just going over our agenda very quickly. In a way, I thought about what's a good icebreaker, and I thought about I am not the most technologically savvy individual, so my icebreaker will be very, very plain and simple. But again, the idea is to inform you and to provide you with further information about our procurement process, and at least try to make the information or try to make complex information more easy and digestible. Because again, there's a lot of information, as I said before, about the procurement process, and it can get confusing. But again, this is why I'm here, to sort of navigate you through those waters there. After the quick points, I'll jump into the presentation and I'll explain how you and your business can get certified and register with the city. I'll jump into the procurement process just very briefly, and I'll talk a little bit about about Alexandria's SWAM program. And of course, at the end, if you have any questions, again, feel free to raise your hand and reach out to me. All right, so let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so quick points. So the question that I get, or it's really more of a fun fact. Well, no, it's a question. You can see how my mind is racing from one point to the other. The question that I get most whenever I interact with service providers is, what is the difference between an ITB and an RFP? And that's a very good question. in my mind, whenever I hear the two, I know easily how to differentiate them, and I can give you a very complex answer. But hopefully the answer that I do provide will provide a little bit of clarity on what the difference is. So to simply put, an ITB or an invitation to bid is also known within procurement or in public procurement as a sealed bid. Simply put, it's a call to or think of it as a call to contractors to submit a proposal on a project for a specific product or service. Now, that sounds very technical and very very textbooky, and I was trying to make the language a little bit more plain and simple. But if you really don't understand what that means, I'll try to break it down for you a little bit further. Essentially, contractors will submit their price in a sealed envelope, which is it's publicly maintained, or which are publicly open to maintain transparency. So to give you a brief example, so let's say if there is a solicitation or a project, and we, the city, would like to have 3 or 4 or 5 or how many service providers compete in this solicitation. We'll ask each provider to join this solicitation or to join this process, and we'll ask them to submit a proposal or a quote or a price list for services that are being considered. What we'll do, we'll keep it sealed, and I guess at the end of the time frame, of the allotted time frame, we will gather all service providers within one room. Typically, this is how it was done pre-COVID, but now that we're in this, the way that the city conducts our invitations to bid, we invite every service provider to virtually convene, sort of like in a go-to meeting setting, and we'll publicly open and read out the prices that were proposed by each service provider. And again, this is to maintain transparency. The contract will be awarded to the lowest and most responsive bidder, and that is a rule that just does not change. So if depending on the scope of work and depending on the scope of work and what price you propose, if it is the lowest bidder and you are considered the most responsive, meaning that you are timely in your response, then again, this is great. Most likely or more than likely, you will be awarded a contract with the city. ITBs are used most for public works and design bid build contracts. That is a tough one, and I said I wasn't going to screw up that phrase. So ultimately, price is a deciding factor. So that's how you should look at it. So just going over it from a high level, invitations to bid, it's a call to contractors to submit a proposal on a project for a specific product or service. Ideally, what you need to know about it, and again, to really navigate through the waters, despite all the jargon and use that you may see in an ITB or a proposal, you need to know that you need to submit a price or submit, again, follow the rules very carefully. If they ask for you to submit a price for a particular item, you submit that. If they ask you to submit some other bit of information, then you go ahead and do that. So that way you are considered the most responsive as well, that you're following the rules. And also know that at the end of the allotted time, or that open window for when the city is able to accept proposals from its bidders, we will gather all of the service providers into one room, and we will then open the bids or open the proposals, and we will read out the prices that were proposed. Okay, and again, just remember and highlight this point: price is ultimately a deciding factor. So with that said, that's the ITB. So let's go to the cousin of the ITB, the request for proposal. Now it's similar to an ITB, but again, to make it very plain and simple, it's another method within the competitive bidding process, or it's another method for how we solicit proposals. This is used when the end product, or this is RFPs are mainly used when the end product is unique and the customer, or as I like to refer to them, our stakeholder, they know what they want. And again, to provide a little bit more context, what does this mean? The method that is used when the product, well, this is a method that's used when the product is unique. Well, I already said that. The customer knows what product or service that they want, but the method and specifications are not readily known and available. So this means that the customer or my stakeholder, they know that they want to install a specific product that can make our buildings more energy efficient. However, they know that that's the end result. They have the vision, but they're not sure what specifications or what appropriate methods could be used in order to safely, securely, and cost effectively install these specific products, which is why we will then go out into the market and ask service providers who are professionals, what are their thoughts? What, again, if you have the opportunity to bid on this project, what are your thoughts? How would you do this? Now, unlike the ITB, price is not the ultimate deciding factor that is weighted. Within an RFP, one of the things that we take into consideration very much so is the quality and the experience that the service provider is able to give. So to simply put, what does that mean? We look at we are looking at the price. We are looking at the response that the service provider has given or has outlined within their proposal or response. And we look at if the company or the service provider has a good reputation within the community, if they are licensed, if they are experienced. And again, that's another way that we within the city perform our due diligence on service provider, on every service provider that we come into contact with. Because again, it's one thing for a service provider to provide a response to an open solicitation, but again, from the city's perspective, we also, again, to ensure that we have found the most responsive and most qualified service provider or bidder, we have to perform due diligence. So again, within the RFP, a lot is taken into consideration, but again, the process itself is a little bit similar to the ITB. Now, with that said, I know I was giving a lecture there. Again, I don't think that anyone has, I didn't see any questions raised as of yet, so I will go ahead and jump to the next point. But again, those were some of the quick points or the fun facts, if you will, that I wanted to share with you, because I know that whenever I receive calls from service providers who are interested in registering with the City of Alexandria or with the Commonwealth as a SWAM, some providers, and again, as I said before, no question is too far off base. A lot of the times, service providers will ask me, well, what is the difference between an ITB and an RFP? And those are, the ITB and RFP are for our formal solicitations, and these are bids or competitive bids that are above a certain dollar threshold, I think, which is over $100,000. If we go below $100,000 and below, there are also other form of competitive bids and forms of solicitations that the city uses. Sometimes we'll put out a request for quote, which is a very streamlined process when we will ask a service provider to issue or to provide us with quotes for a specific service. So if our stakeholder knows that they want to that they need towing services on behalf of the city, and they need towing, or they need a service provider to actually provide towing services, and they know that, okay, we need a service truck that can carry a certain amount of weight, or we need a service vehicle that has this specific specifications on their truck in order to perform specific services. I will work with that stakeholder to design a specific questions, and I'll ask the vendor, when we ask vendors, what is your, or provide us a quote for the specific service. So it's a very straightforward process. We don't ask any information, or normally we don't ask information about the provider's background or the general makeup of their organization. An RFQ or a request for quote is a very straightforward process. There's also something called a request for information, but I haven't seen that used too much within the public procurement realm. But again, I mean, there are many forms of competitive bids, but the most important that you as a business should be interested in, and that you will probably see when you do log into the Alexandria's portal, you'll see solicitations in the form of an ITB or RFPs. And again, I would encourage you to jump in and apply, because again, the solicitations are vast, and again, it doesn't stop. Even though that we are in a restricted, we are not interacting with the public face to face, we are trying to interact virtually. So with that, I'll jump ahead. So what's the point of all this? Why, this kind of leads back to what I was saying before. I know I was giving a mouthful about this, but the point of all of this, why, another question that I get is like, why, I mean, what is the point of all this? Why are there so many steps along the process? Well, the main idea is that the city, we want to foster competition. We like competition. We want to see businesses who live within the Alexandria community and the surrounding communities as well, but particularly I'll speak with Alexandria. We want to see businesses within Alexandria participate in the within the government process. Again, there are the opportunities, as I've said many times along this presentation, are vast. Seriously, I look at our roster of solicitations that are upcoming and that are current, and I'm saying to myself, you know, ever since March, you know, we have been churning out solicitations, and we have been moving forward, because again, the business of the city does not stop. The final point that I had on the slide is, as a government municipality, we are interested in the area's local businesses. So essentially, as small women-owned, minority and/or veteran-owned businesses, we want to see you compete. We want to see you succeed. So if there is any way that we can extend a branch or if there's any way that we can help you apply and become registered and compete in the process, we're here for you. We want to see you. We want to see you compete with the mainline service providers that are out there within the market. And again, we want to foster competition. And I can say, because I have seen this since I've been with the city, is that no matter the size of the entity, and when I say entity, I'm talking about the business. I have seen SWAMs win solicitations or pass solicitations or pass competitive bids. So again, if you are qualified, if you are very knowledgeable, if you keep strict to our protocols and guidelines, meaning that you respond to our solicitations in a timely manner, and again, if our selection committees finds it once we review everything or our responses, you will potentially become an awardee, and a city contract will be awarded to your business. So again, I'm, as you can hear the enthusiasm in my voice. Like I am passionate about this, because I want to see I want to see businesses within every silo of SWAM. So whether you are a small, women-owned, minority, and veteran-owned, I want to see you compete. So here is an outline of our spend, or the city's spend within our last fiscal year. And as you can see, it's a very high amount. Everything that I'm saying is building on top of one another. So I mentioned previously that the opportunities are vast. Now, this slide is to let you know that within our last fiscal year, fiscal year 2019, the City of Alexandria has spent or has allocated money to each specific categories. So this means that for projects that were conducted within 2019, the city we have spent money in excess. So as an example, for construction services, we spent well over $44 million, which is the bulk of the city's spend is allocated towards this category. So this means, general maintenance, construction, redesign, repair. Again, there is opportunities for every business within every category. So again, I am encouraging you to join and to register. And again, as I've mentioned before, I have also said that the information that I'm sharing I'm trying to build on the information. So I've said before that the opportunities are vast. When getting my thoughts together, let's just say you as an entity are registered. You've gone through our process to register your business with the City of Alexandria. We have reviewed your vendor profile, or excuse me, your application to become a SWAM business with the city. You will then have access to our service portal, which houses all of our open solicitations. So this screen capture to our left is an example of the solicitations that are actually currently in place. So this is our current list of active solicitations. So we had an engineering or architectural and engineering solicitation. We had an insurance consulting and brokerage services solicitation that was in play. So again, there is something out there for you. And also there is a link to our current bids. Again, if you want, you can go ahead and write that website down. If not, when you have the time, just go ahead and peruse our government site, and you'll see that there is truth to what I am saying. So registration with the city. So I said before that registration is the first step to make sure that your business is certified with the city as a SWAM provider. The process, and again, the process itself is not complex, but there's a lot of things that let's just say that if you as a business decide that you want to register with the City of Alexandria, great, we encourage it. Now, before you go ahead and hit submit application, you as the business entity will have to provide some information for the City of Alexandria to validate and ensure that you as a business are actually legitimate, that you have been in service for a specific amount of time, and also that information that you provide us, we then share with our project managers and division chiefs who are the owners or who hold the keys to these bidding solicitations. So let's just say if a stakeholder of mine, and I'll say within construction services, they know that they need a specific construction service provider that they want specific construction service providers to participate in this bid, and they need them to have employees in excess of maybe 100, or maybe if they need employees or they need a group that has an employee count of maybe 50. Well, that information that you provide us within the application process, we will then transmit, or we'll put into a window prompt that will tell our stakeholders, okay, if you click on this vendor, or if you invite this vendor to participate in a solicitation, you're getting this vendor, and they are qualified and they have the credentials to do so. Now that's not to say that our stakeholders are that they are discriminating in one service provider from another. Generally speaking, when a stakeholder is interested in putting out a solicitation and they type in what we call a commodity code or a vendor code or a commodity code, a list of vendors who are registered will populate, and again, that stakeholder, they will then see who within the industry are capable of performing the service. The other thing that I will touch on with vendors registration is that when you are registered with the city, registration or your registration is valid for 3 years. So let's say you register, we approve, the city approves you, and literally, you are perusing our web portal to see what open solicitations are active, but you don't find anything, and you do this over the course of 3 years. Well, at the end of 3 years, you will have, and unfortunately, our system is not as savvy to inform each vendor of this automatically, but you, the individual, will have to monitor your profile and then re-register. And again, re-registration is much more simpler than the actual initial registration process. I will say that if you allow your profile to expire, unfortunately, the City of Alexandria will require you as an entity to re-register again, meaning that you'll have to fill out another application, online application, of course. You'll have to provide a W-9, your business's, I think, EIN number, and again, and some, I don't believe and I think that we asked for an interim bank statement. But again, those are some of the initial things that come to mind that I know that we asked for. So again, here's the website. Again, I would encourage you all to browse it and peruse it if you have any questions or concerns, and if you are interested. The other thing that I will share with you about our registration process is that because we are all working from home, or at least some of us are working from home, my division, so let's say if you submit an application to become a registered SWAM, your application does not go to me at the onset. Initially, it will go to my colleagues within purchasing, or actually on the other side of purchasing, it will go to our finance team, our accounting team. Our accounting team will then receive your application directly, and then they will manually review each portion and every stage of your application to ensure that you have input or you have provided the correct information. Let's say if you miss a portion of information, we're not going to throw out your application. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just kindly, or they will call you, our accounting group will call you directly and walk you through the process, and we'll ask you, hey, can you please, on page 3 of the application process, can you submit another copy of your W-9 form, because this portion was not, a specific portion of the document was unviewable, something to that respect. Once our accounting group reviews and approves your application, it then goes through, they will then move your application to their senior account manager of the accounting group. And again, it's a very manual process, but again, this is how it's done within the city. Once that's moved to the accounting manager for final approval and review, they will again manually review, and just as a way of double checking the other professionals' work to ensure that it has been approved. Once the manager approves it, you will then be provided an official vendor ID and SWAM number within the city, and then your profile. I will then be notified as the SWAM lead that you are new to the group, or that you have been added to our supply chain or our repository. So I have spoken a lot about that. Let me see if I can go on to the next slide. Okay, I should have done this before. Here's a screenshot of our vendor self-service portal. It's known as Munis. It's nothing special about that name. It is just the service provider that we use who manages our repository. So again, to begin the registration process, again, the first step, go on to the City of Alexandria's website. If you can find our purchasing division, and when you find our purchasing division, you'll probably see my face, and you'll see another prompt that speaks to SWAM registry, And again, you can hit on that registration button. Okay. And again, this speaks to everything that I was saying before. Be sure that you get the data right. So, or this is what we stress this to every new applicants who are registering with the city. One of the things, the first item that's on the list is commodity codes. Now, commodity codes, I spoke to this before in a previous slide. It is so let's say if your business is a caterer, again, you will be registered as an entity with the city, but again, we have a specific code for food services. In fact, there are several codes within our repository that speaks to food services for city official, food services for our public school divisions, food services for our emergency services unit, and there are multiple commodity codes. If you are a construction business, well, do you provide construction services for, I guess that's a poor example. If you are again, there are many, or if you are an IT service provider, do you provide maintenance services, or do you provide training services to a specific group that enriches the group on how to better use the city's internet services, or do you provide training that will teach the IT group on how to maintain cybersecurity of the city's internal network? There are different commodity codes that you can click on and put under your company's belt, which will help you get, essentially these commodity codes will help you get noticed by our project managers and our stakeholders who issue these solicitations. So again, let me touch on that again, because I said a lot. Your commodity codes are the specific items that you want to use and you want to gather, which will help you get noticed by our project managers and directors. Unfortunately, I wish that I could say that our commodity codes were in excess of 10 or 15. I will say very openly, we have thousands of commodity codes within our system. So again, if you are a construction service, or if you are an IT service provider, if you are an architectural landscaping provider, again, don't think that you need to be conservative with the amount of commodity codes that you choose for your business. Again, it's just a matter of browsing through the commodity codes and choosing the right ones that seem correct for your business. Be sure that your contact information is correct. Now, I said before in the previous slide that our registration, or your registration, I should say, would be valid for 3 years. Now, I understand that businesses and people, again, things change within a certain amount of time. You can move your business from one physical location to the other. The gatekeeper who manages your account with the city could have changed. So again, unfortunately, because our system is not as tech savvy, again, you as the applicant or as the future SWAM provider will have to closely monitor your profile to ensure that the information is valid and is constantly updated. And again, we encourage applicants and to monitor, or at least to update the data maybe every 6 months or so. Oh, and also as a SWAM status, well, this goes back to the application process. As you are going through the application process, I will encourage you to make sure that you classify yourself as a small women-owned and minority-owned business. And the reason why I say this is because one of the things that and I could share this with you all internally that we're doing within the city is that we're educating our stakeholders, our categories within the city on the benefits of using SWAM. In the past, many moons ago, the city unfortunately did not have a very good record of using SWAM service providers. But again, we have made a lot of efforts to change the perception and change the practices that are used, that are done internally. So as a purchasing group and as the SWAM lead, again, I meet with our stakeholders and our division chiefs consistently to educate them on the usage of SWAM. I make sure that any solicitation that does go out or that is issued within the city, that SWAMs are considered and are used. Because again, it's one thing to encourage a stakeholder to use a SWAM service provider, but it's another thing to, that they are actually using it. So again, a check and balance in a way that I employ or that I use is that every solicitation that goes out, I get a monthly report to see if SWAMs are actually used, and categories that are not using SWAMs appropriately, well, they have fallen in line to receive training again from me, which encourages them to use SWAMs, because again, we want to encourage competition. We want to encourage fair and equitable competition. We know that there are prime service providers out there who can compete and respond to solicitations. But again, we want to encourage and we want to ensure that that vendors within each category, no matter the size, their ethnicity, background, no matter the size or their ethnic background, they are considered. Because again, SWAMs represent our community as well. Now, the City of Alexandria, we have our own. I shared with you the name of our internal solicitation system that you, as the applicant and future SWAM, would be using, and that's known as Munis. The Commonwealth of Virginia uses something called, I think it was known as eProcure at one point, but now it has been shortened to the acronym known as EVA. Sometimes if you already have a profile set up with EVA, you will find that some of the City of Alexandria solicitations are actually advertised on EVA. I know that internally we're working to have all of our solicitations posted and issued through our city's own procurement portal. I don't know why we're like that. I guess we just like to be individuals ourselves. But again, if you want to explore some of the other solicitations that are advertised within the Commonwealth, again, you can go to the web address below, or that's listed here, and you will see the opportunities that are available throughout the Commonwealth. And also, again, you should also register with the Small Business and Supplier Diversity Group. Again, they are, not register. You should also reach out to the SBSD because they are a wealth of information. Again, they know if you have questions related to the SWAM process, both within the Commonwealth of Virginia and with the City of Alexandria, they are a great tool and resource for you to use. I will note, and this is something I probably should have mentioned before, is that when you are registered as a SWAM service provider with the City of Alexandria, that doesn't mean necessarily that you are registered with the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has its own registration process. You will be given a SWAM certified number, a SWAM registration number once you go through their process as well. Again, the reason why is it like this? Why do you have to go through one hurdle to only cross another hurdle? Again, this is just how the system is designed, even before I came on as a lead. Again, we try to mirror our registration process closely to the Commonwealth or the states. And again, it's the hardest part about registering with the city is just getting all of your documentation in order to register. Once you start the application, there is a guide that I personally provide to you as an applicant that is basically a cheat sheet or how-to guide that explains what information do you need, what do you need to know. Because again, I can give you the gospel, but again, if I could just tell you exactly what you need to know at a high level, that can help you streamline the process and get to the finish line quicker. Again, then I feel good as an individual sharing that information to you. Questions, and I've seen that there's a few hands raised, so I'll go to the questions.
Actually, Jason, I can field those for you.
Oh,
we've had a few questions that have come through the chat box.
Okay.
The first one was from Meziane, and she wanted to know, for newly formed business entities, consulting firms, does the city consider key personnel experience as a substitute for firm experience when evaluating RFPs?
That is a very good question. That's such a good question. I'm going to ask you to please, could you please read that again? Because I want to make sure I understand that context.
So for newly formed business entities, i.e. consulting firms, does the city consider key personnel experience as a substitute for firm experience when evaluating RFPs?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, we do not. We do not substitute one for the other. We will ask for management level, I guess, bios and I've seen in certain solicitations where we will ask for the resumes of some of your senior of the consulting group's senior level managers.
Yes.
Take this into consideration, but we also look at the firm's experience as well. We want to know what other projects you have done as an entity in the past. What other businesses or excuse me, what other firms or customers have you aligned yourself with in the past? So we don't discriminate and we don't put preference on one or the other. We try to make it very baseline and just say, look, if this is the information that we're asking for, please provide it, and then we'll take it all into consideration. It's a general answer. I don't know if that really helps, but
I think so, because many times I think for new firms, to get the opportunity to have past performance is always such a chicken. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so I think that really clarifies as they're looking and evaluating different RFPs that come through. The next question is from Janelle Welch.
Hello.
And she wanted to know, is the woman-owned status based on the SBA's WOSB registration? Or does the City of Alexandria have its own certification process? And I think you might have answered that.
So yeah, I'll provide some context. The city, we try to mirror our process closely to the states. Why we do that, I don't know. You would think that if you are registered with the state, you are good all around. But since we are the city, we are our own jurisdiction, we are our own municipality. We like to think of us like Luxembourg. We are a country inside of. We have our own
analogy.
and that's how I
Yes.
understand it myself. No, but once you are let's say that you select yourself as a woman-owned provider, you just check that off. Again, we will ask you what is the general makeup of your firm and who are are some of your owners or some of your senior level managers, mid-level managers and associates. What is the general makeup of it? But again, if you select that you are a woman-owned provider, we're not going to ask you, or we're not going to say, okay, well, you have to go through an extra level,
like a certified process.
No, we try to, even though there are many hurdles, we try It's not that complex. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I like it. It's very transparent, very clear. We now have a question from Darlene Mitchell, and
Hello.
she asks, how can a new firm become established if you do not accept key personnel experience? And this is a follow-up from the question that we had received before.
So how can you become, read that again, because that is a very good question.
Yes.
Please.
How can a new firm become established if you do not accept key personnel experience?
Whew, that is a very good question. If we do not accept
This is that chicken egg conundrum.
Well, how can you become established? Well, first off, I mean, if you as an entity, as a business entity, if you are a actual business within the state and the country, then that's your first level of you are established, you are certified, or excuse me, let me not use that word. You as a business entity are good in that right. You know what? I'll say to the user or to the person who had that question, please email me, and I guess we offline, and I would try to speak more.
Yes.
And
I think too, like and I'll pose this as a follow-up question for myself. Do you think that in many ways, when smaller businesses or smaller enterprises will team up with another business, that does equate to getting, some past performance, right? If there's a contract that the City of Alexandria has, and there's one firm that's going after it, but they're looking for a key specialty that another business has, and they're partnered and teamed up on it.
Oh, in that case, no. Yeah, that's again, you can equally use that as experience. So that happens with a number of our service providers. Let's say they are a small enterprise, like you said, they are a small enterprise, but they have experience. But again, as they're trying to gain their traction within the business world, they have to align with some of the bigger entities. That's fine. We're not going to take that.
Yes.
We're not going to say, oh, well, you had aligned yourself. You are a water service provider. You provide water to the city, and you distribute water in water bottles. Well, you have to align yourselves with the Coca-Cola company because they have a bigger thumbprint within the industry. That's fine if you have to.
Or you could also, does past performance, like if you're doing things in the private sector, that counts as well, correct?
That does count as well. That does count. Hopefully I was able to.
Many ways. I guess there are many ways, and we're starting to get in more questions. So I want to make sure we try to hit as many folks. We have heard from Mark Steele. Are there SWAM quotas for the city solicitors to abide by?
Ooh, now that is a very, very good question, Mark.
And that's from AJ Singh.
Oh, AJ. Okay. Let me provide the context before I answer that question. Before this whole pandemic, one of the things that was on the agenda for me was to go before our city council and to really give them an update on SWAM and to really change some of the parameters that governs SWAM, our SWAM program. Because there was nothing really set in stone that says, okay, you must use a SWAM service provider. There has to be at least no more than 5 or 6 of them. Internally within the city, again, I've tried to make steps internally with the tools that I have and make it in an informal or what am I trying to say? In an informal way that you have to use SWAM. So again, as I mentioned before in the presentation, if you have a solicitation, no matter the size, scope, or dollar amount, you have to consider using a SWAM service provider. There has to be a SWAM that is part of the bidding process. So essentially, they have to be invited. But to answer the general question, we're working on making sure that that the stamp is official. So hopefully, as things get better within the landscape, we'll be able to change our parameters.
Now, and I have to clarify too, that question was from Mark Steele. AJ Singh has a question: who is the right contact for our project management product or tool to do a demo? So if a small business has a product or service that they want to pitch to the City of Alexandria, how do they best go about doing that?
Actually, that would be me. I would be the again, I'm the gatekeeper within this process. And the reason why I say that is because as a city entity, it's not like the private sector where you can go out and have it present a pitch your product or service automatically. Some of our project managers, they like to use, or not like to use, they will ask procurement and myself as the SWAM lead to the first line of vetting, if you will. So I will meet with service providers. Again, if they have a product or service that they would like to present to the city. Again, I have met with I've met with groups in the past face to face. We haven't had entities reach out to us since the pandemic has begun. But again, in the future, that's something that we as a city could consider.
And you could do like maybe a virtual platform and
Absolutely.
Hear from folks, especially if it's something that can help us during the pandemic. I would
absolutely. I mean, one of the things that before the pandemic, I will say before we were given the stay-at-home orders, something that myself and my other colleague within SWAM that we tried to do, we tried to send out an email blast to all of our registered SWAMs to let them know what services are available to them as an entity, as a business during this time. So if there was a grant that might have been available through the state, we would send out an email to all of our suppliers. If initially there was the economic injury and disaster relief that was offered through the federal government. Again, we were trying to just get the word out because, again, during this time, we have received a lot of phone calls, a lot of inquiries from vendors, who are saying, look, I know that I think I might be registered with SWAM. Do you know if there are any solicitations that are actively posted on your site? Because again, we're a small business and we want to keep our traction going. And so that's why, again, really strongly pressing that for businesses to get registered with the city, because there are solicitations there are opportunities available.
And the goal too is to be registered before an opportunity hits the streets, correct?
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. You have to be registered. So let's say if the solicitation posts today, but you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not registered. Oh, is this going to take forever? No, it's not going to take forever. Again, just be calm, and again, use me as your shepherd, if you will. So let's say
I love that.
you have to get registered. Call me, reach out to me, and again, I will speak with my accounting cousins to help get you registered accordingly. And I've done that in the past.
Okay, we've got more questions pouring in.
Sure.
Rosemary Bellamy.
Hello.
She says that they are a certified SDVOSB and SWAM.
Okay.
And we produce food.
Oh,
How
great.
do we find out who we should contact? Oh, I did not see the food code you spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in this instance, Rosemary would get in touch with you.
Yeah. Commodity.
And able to, I love it too, because I think it's transparency in government. And so if you have questions or if you're not able to find the information, we're all here to support you and your endeavors. And, I definitely want to emphasize that to everyone on the webinar today.
Yep.
Janelle Welch says this was very informative and wanted to send you a deep thank you.
Oh, good, good, good.
Yes. And then Lynette Duke has a question.
Sure.
Do
Hello.
you have a venue whereby smaller women-owned businesses can team up with other contracts to gain past performance?
Ooh.
And I think that that would be something, and that our friends at SBSD, one of the programs that they do for SWAM businesses is a program called Scaling for Growth. What Scaling for Growth does is it puts together all SWAM businesses. So it's not just women, but it's minority owned, it's small owned, it's veteran owned businesses. It's a cohort that works together to work through different challenges. And I can attest, we've hosted Scaling for Growth. It's similar to the SBA's Emerging Leaders Program, and it is amazingly effective. It is awesome. And I highly encourage, when you see that coming around, if you go to the sbsd.virginia.gov site, to sign up. It's being held virtually now because we're in the health pandemic, but it's an amazing way to help your business, especially here in Virginia and in the DMV region, to grow and to expand. So I'm just gonna, Jason, I'm just gonna jump in and just do a shameless plug for that, because I really think that with the pandemic, it's really hard to do business as we usually do. I'd say come out to a networking event. We have lots of women business events that are going on, but just know to reach out to our agencies and to our organizations, because we're here to help.
Yep.
You don't have to go it alone. And then Gary Gaston had a question. Will you be hosting these procurement series again per city, or will a recording be provided? I can answer that. This is being taped and it will go up on YouTube. So if you need to go back, if you missed a slide from Jason, it's going to be there for prosperity. Also, we're going to have our third week is going to be featuring Fairfax County and the procurement officers from Fairfax. And then the next week after that is going to be Prince William. I'd love to open it up to do even more. And I think we should, because Jason, the information that you shared was so amazingly helpful.
I'm glad.
I knew you all were doing SWAM, but I didn't know about the portal. And so this is going to help me to help other people as well. And the sharing of information is priceless.
Yeah,
but
this
we've
is
got
great.
more questions to go. Let's see. And I don't know if this is our last question, but from Mark Steele, is there a way for new firms, companies to connect with some of the current service providers the city uses to help the new firm earn a proven track record?
Ooh.
I think this is kind of a theme that we're hearing from our new businesses.
You know, I haven't even thought of that. I'm gonna hold off an answer tentatively, only because I know that even though we love transparency, we love openness within the city. In terms of sharing information with, like the names of other service providers, I'm not 100% certain if we are allowed to share that information. So I'm going to hold off on an answer and say, if you reach out to me personally, by then I should probably check with some of the higher ups to see what is the official answer. Because again, I don't want to give any misinformation.
Yes. And I would say, on behalf of the SBSD, if you go into the EVA web portal, you can find all the contracts that are done from EVA, and it has the contact information.
Peek under the hood.
You can peek under the hood. And what I say, you can also see, like, if you track the commodity code, you can find out who is awarded, even who that purchasing officer is, and the prices. And so I always tell people to use the EVA system as your business intelligence, because that way you can find out what are some of the price points, what was awarded, what the terms are, so that can make your bid competitive. But you also have the contact information about the businesses that were awarded the opportunities. So, hey, definitely check out Eva because it's a wealth of information if you haven't done so already.
So yeah, and I wrote that down because again, we like Alexandria, we like to be individuals. We have our own system, we like to, we have our own, but again, this is really good to let everyone know that Eva is a portal for them to use.
You can get a lot of information from there. And
I'm
it
going
also
to.
lists, I think on the SBSD, they also list all of the SWAM-owned businesses because it's a marketing,
Yeah.
if a large business is looking to hook up with a SWAM certified, they can do so. Veteran-owned business, it's a great way. And I think, even though we are, all virtual, there's still a great way to communicate and be heard and let people know about your product and services. Because many times, and I hate to say this, but Jason, I don't know if you feel the same way, but it sometimes in government we don't know about what's out there unless you've approached us. And
Yeah.
I think now if you're sitting on something that you believe could benefit our community as a whole, knock on our door. you know
Again, just ask. I mean,
Just ask. What's the worst that can happen, right?
That's the worst that can happen. That's
What's
correct.
the worst? And it might be a yes. You never know. So I think there's a lot of people that were very oh yes, I will put, Lynette asked about putting the SDSB website into the chat. I'm going to do that right now. It's sbsd.virginia.gov. And that will list to all the programs that Chris Lay had mentioned earlier. There's financial programs, there's a SWAM certification, and EVA falls under that portal.
Okay.
And so the cool factor is Chris Lay is available to do one-on-ones, and she's doing those virtually as well. Because some of the biggest challenges I've heard from small businesses, Jason, I don't know if you've come across this, is just making sure that the new businesses, the commodity code that they're listing matches up with, how the buyers are going to be searching and looking for those vendors.
That is correct. And I was trying to touch on it in the presentation, but again, there was just so much information processing. The challenge is ensuring that your commodity code is correct, because again, there are thousands of them that we have within our system. We're trying to, again, pre-pandemic, our goal was to try to condense the commodity codes to make it more streamlined. Again, I love using that word as a go-to word because again, I want to fast track it because I try to put myself in the place of the business owner. If I'm on the other side of the track and I'm saying, okay, look, this entity is telling me that there are opportunities out there, but you know what, their process is a little cumbersome, and you know what, listen, time is, I have other things to do. They may be discouraged from doing it, but again, I am trying to encourage as much as I can to, hold the fight, stay in the fight and search for those commodity codes, because again, the success story for me, and I can share this, there was a pre-pandemic, there was a catering service within Alexandria that I knew of. And interesting enough, just as we said before, as a city group, you may not know what other people may know. And again, this is a small world. Essentially, someone within the higher echelons within our city government needed a catering service to provide specific culinary services. So there was dietary, restrictions and all the other things that were above. Now, and what's interesting is that this particular person within our city government wanted to use a SWAM specifically because again, they were looking at past pricing reports, and again, notice that if we're using a prime provider, and they're unreliable, but yet there is a small and women-owned business within Alexandria and minority-owned business within Alexandria who are known within the community. Why aren't they registered? That was the first question that was posed to me. So success was, listen, this individual within the upper echelons knew of this business. personally. And again, their first question to me was, why aren't they certified? And Jason, can you please ensure that they are certified, within a certain allotment of time? And I have to say, this is back in January. We were able to certify it very quickly, and they were able to compete for this contract. And now that they are used, and again, this is a success story.
And that's what it's about. I think being persistent, making sure that folks are aware that you exist, and just making sure as well that you have those certifications in place. I can't emphasize it enough, because we don't want to know, hey, I had this, but I missed the deadline, or I wasn't able to compete. Like, we want everybody to compete.
Yeah.
If you've got the skills and the talent, we want to know about it.
That's right. And I'll just share a quick tidbit. Pre-pandemic, myself and another colleague within the department, another goal or priority of ours is that we wanted to actually physically meet business owners who could be potentially SWAM and are SWAM providers. And what we did specifically at the end of each month, we would actually go out and say, okay, within this category, within architectural design or IT, we're going to go to 5 or 6 businesses, maybe 3 are SWAM and 3 aren't, and we're going to actually say, hi, from a cold call knock, here we are, we're the City of Alexandria, have you considered registering SWAM? And if so, do you have a few moments to hear the good news about what we're proposing? And literally, I have to say we were very successful at registering new businesses. So we're trying. I mean, again, we realize that we have a rough past, and we're trying to, walk over those humps.
You know what, Jason? The past is the past. We're into the future.
There we go.
And the city has you there, so I know we are in good hands.
Too kind, too kind.
Thank you so much. We've got a lot of thank yous from the audience, Jason, for the information that you shared with us today. On behalf of Arlington, we thank you. We're, I think one thing that I just want to say to the audience is interesting. It's like, we're not going to be the same as we were prior to March. The health pandemic has changed a lot of ways that we do business. But one thing that is sure that I can tell you is that as a region, we're going to be doing a lot of collaboration. We're going to be reaching across to different places, and we're going to make sure that our business community has access to the information they need to succeed. Absolutely. So on behalf of the team, thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, audience, for joining us on this rainy Friday afternoon. We will be saving this information and we'll be sharing it. And we really appreciate your time and attention, and Jason, your expertise on this topic.
Not a problem, not a problem. Please reach out to me, and take care, Paul.
Thank you. Take care, everyone, and have a beautiful day.